Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 308. Today we're going to talk about Imperial Settlers. This is a new game, came out at Gen Con 2014, and it is published by Portal Games and being distributed by Portal Games as well. It plays 1 to 4 players, and it is based somewhat loosely, on the 51st State and Winter and New Era and all that stuff. And those are games that were previously published by Portal 4 or 5 years ago, maybe not that long ago. Those were sort of post-apocalyptic settings. This is more of a civilization setting, so each player can take on barbarians, the Japanese, the Romans, and so on. And then also they are going to have their own deck. So not only is there a common deck that everybody kind of draws from, everybody has their own deck that they're going to draw from and play cards out of. And in your own deck is really where the heart of your game is going to be. You're going to get a lot of your point scoring and your little combos and things out of that. So let's jump into how it works, and I will come back and tell you what I think. Here you can see everything you get in the game. The main focus of the game is going to be your civilization or your faction. So if we zoom in here really close, we can see here is an Egyptian faction board. There's a female and a male side, so you can choose whatever you want to be there. And we've also got here Japanese, Romans, as well as the barbarians there. So everybody's going to get a different board, slightly different production you can see there, and also the special feature of that civilization. And each civilization is going to get their own special deck of cards. So here's the Egyptian, Japanese, Romans, and barbarians. But you're also going to have here a common deck of cards that all the players will be drawing from. This deck of cards here is used in the solitaire game. The solitaire game actually works okay. I do like it. It's kind of grown on me, actually. I didn't really care for it at first, but now that I played it more with different player counts and different civilizations and all that stuff, I just think solitaire game actually is pretty good. And you've got a whole mess of bits here. You've got raid tokens, these swords, these little people here that you can use. Gold, which is a wild resource, so this can count as any of the basic resources. In this case, it could be stone, and it could be wood, or it could be food. And I should just make a nice comment that the bits are actually really cool. It's not just generic cubes, which is nice. Got some other stuff here. First player token. These are special for Egypt and some other resource counting things. And then everybody is going to generate these little shields here because you can get attacked and you can have some of your locations razed and destroyed in the game. So this is a way of kind of locking down one of your locations, making it a little bit more difficult to raise. And you've got your scoreboard here. The thing to note here is every player has their own little faction counter for the score, and the game is going to be played over 5 rounds. And you can see this amazingly illustrated cow here that's going to keep track of how far the civilizations have progressed. So let's quickly set up a little bit of a scenario here, and then I'll kind of walk through all the different phases of a turn. So the first thing you're going to do, of course, is grab your faction board, grab your faction deck. Then you're going to draw 2 cards from your faction deck and then 2 cards there from the common deck. The first thing to notice about these cards here is the cost to build them. So in this case, I need a wood and a stone, or 2 food. Now your faction cards, for the most part, are going to also have a cost of a basic building. So this one here, you can see this is our sanctuary. This costs 2 stone, and we have to discard one of our pre-built common cards here. I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute. You can also raise them. Remember, I showed you the little raise tokens. You can get, in this case, a victory point and a gold, and so on. So you're going to start with 2 of each, and then each round you're going to draw 1 card from your faction deck, and then you're going to deal out a certain number of cards based on the number of players, or you can also do more of like a 7 Wonders style draft in this case. So there's a few ways to do it, the rules explain. I'm not going to go over every single way, but basically what you do is you're going to draft cards here. So maybe the first player, he will take a look and he'll say, oh, I really like this card. This one allows me to spend a worker there to gain a wood, and I can get that twice per round. So I can get that one. The next player maybe takes this one because this is going to produce for them gold, which is a wild resource. And now in this case, we're going to deal up another card. So let's say we're playing a 3-player game. They'll have 4 to choose from as well, so maybe they take this production one because it's early in the game and production is good, so we take that stone there. And now we're back to player 1. So in this case, now I've only got 3 cards to choose from, them. Let's see, what's a good one here? So let's say this one here. We can spend 1 worker and 1 wood to gain 2 victory points. That kind of combos with the one we drew earlier. But now we're going to go to the second and third player. So we're going to reveal a card, so they're always going to have 3 cards to choose from. So let's say second player chooses this one, and we reveal a final card, and the third player chooses this card here, and then we'll discard these. So in that case, I kind of showed you the advanced draft, and that is definitely my preferred way to do it. That's similar to how you do it in 51st State from what I remember. So that's kind of a nice, and you can kind of see what people are choosing, what style of goods maybe they're trying to produce, or what little actions and things they may try to use. And as you get to know the different faction decks, you can kind of get a sense of, okay, he's probably got this card in his hand, he's going to get some extra raise tokens or some gold tokens to do this little combo with his, a card that's particular for his faction. So after that draft phase, which the game calls a lookout phase, you're going to go into production. Everybody does this simultaneously. Now you can see the Egyptians here, they're going to produce 3 people, 1 raise token, they're going to get their shield token, and they're also going to get the gold token there. Now if you had built other cards here, let's just build these also are going to do production as well. So let's say this player had built these 2 cards here, and my one huge gripe with the look and feel of the game is the text on the cards is really, really small. It doesn't need to be that small. In this case, you're going to produce an extra stone and an extra gold token if you were the Egypt player. And everybody has a little bit of a different layout here from starting production. So you can see this is the Romans. They get 2 people, raise, wood, and stone. And you can see here, Egypt didn't even get a wood. Let's look at the Japanese. Here we go. These are Japanese. So 4 people, 1 a raise and 1 wood, no stone. And then the barbarians here, they get a whole bunch of people, but they don't get any resources. So everybody has definitely a different starting foot that they're going to be off on. So you're going to do production, and then you're going to go into action phases, and everybody is going to take 1 action at a time, going around the table, and here are the different things that you can do. Well, first of all, you can build a location. So you can see here's the cost. So the cost me a wood and a stone, and I'm going to put that here. Now in the case of production, as soon as you build that, you're going to instantly produce that good. So we're going to build that, we're instantly going to get a stone. And this one here, we're instantly going to get a gold piece. So that's something to keep in mind. Now some of these cards actually have a building bonus. And it's not just production cards, it could be action and feature cards too that we'll place down here. But they're going to have a production bonus, so the instant that you build this, boom, you're going to get a stone anyway. And in this case, since it's production, you're going to get 2 stone, 1 from the bonus, 1 from the production, and then now you've got some more stone immediately to use on that turn. So you can build a building that way, then you're going to stick it under here, and you're immediately going to generate whatever that is. So it's another way of production. So here you have the little person, you're going to immediately generate that, and then each turn after, you're going to generate that. Now it does cost you 1 food to make a deal. So anytime you make a deal, you've got a bay of food there. And this is actually a very interesting piece of the game because a lot of your big scoring and combo stuff is going to come from your faction cards. But early on in the game, you really need to be kind of producing a lot of stuff to build anything. So there's a real kind of trade-off between making a deal with these versus building them for their cool special abilities. Now the next thing you can do is you can raise a card. So you can either raise a card from your hand. In that case, it's going to cost you 1 raise token. You just take and spend that there. And you can raise this card in your hand. So I can immediately burn this card down to get a stone and a wood. I can get a victory point and a stone and so on. Now the Japanese here can actually have their own cards raised from their own faction deck, like so. But the thing to keep in mind is that you can also raise other people's buildings. Now, it's going to cost you 2 raise tokens to raise somebody's buildings, but what's going to happen there, you're going to turn that over, so they still have this building that they can use to pay for the cost of one of their faction buildings, and they're also going to get a little piece of wood to kind of, it's like the building is burned down. So you can raise somebody else's, but again, it's going to cost you 2 raise tokens, and also here, you can also raise the Japanese buildings, which is tricky and makes it really hard to play the Japanese because you can have your big hit scoring buildings get raised. Now remember, you can also get one of these every round to place on one of your buildings. Now these go on your basic buildings here. All that does is increase the cost to raise that. So that's going to cost 3 raise tokens to raise that one there. The Japanese do get some ability cards that will allow them to put samurai, and those will just be people that you've generated on that turn. You can actually put them on the card, and guard that, and cost more raise tokens again to raise those particular locations. And the next thing you can do is you can take an action. So you may have built different action cards here. Here's the common cards, we put those on the right, and we can put our faction cards here on the left. And there's also an action here in the center of their board. Now everybody has the same action, coming on their faction board. And this action is basically build or pay 2 workers, and you can either get a wood, a stone, a food, or draw a card off of either the common deck or your deck there. So you can see here, if we zoom a little bit, it says may be used multiple times. And what that means is you can actually spend multiple on one turn to get a bunch of things. Now normally, like this action here, you can only do this once. So you can spend 1 person and 1 stone to gain 2 points. And you do that by go ahead and putting him on there with the stone, because you can mark that, okay, I've already done that, I can't do that again this round. If it was, let's say, some of these say you can do it twice. Like for example, this one, spend 1 person and 1 wood may be activated twice. Sorry, spend 1 person to gain 1 wood, and you can activate that twice. So I can either do it once now and then do it once again, or I can do them both at the same time. And then this particular one is a good example of an Egyptian building, the Temple of Ra. This one likes to actually place these little Egypt tokens on an opposing faction's building and basically making it your own. So there's a whole variety of different factions that are specific to factions, and common factions as well. There are also feature cards, and these are going to kind of put here in this middle row. For example, this one here. Each time you build a brown, and here's the color of the building, these little stripes here, so you got brown and gold and stuff. You gain 1 gold and 1 victory point. So you can put that out here and then try to build a bunch of brown buildings afterwards. And there's feature cards specific for the factions as well. Now each faction here in the center has a different feature. And all that is you may store any number of a thing. So this is any number of gold, whereas the barbarians here, they can store any number of people. Basically at the end of the round, if you haven't spent anything, you've got to discard it, except for the one that you're allowed to store any number of. Now that's pretty much how you're going to play the game. You're going to go into another lookout phase, drafting, production, whatever you've got out here for production, do some different action phases, and then go back and clean up. And again, it's going to take place over 5 rounds. You're going to score lots of points in the game, but then at the end of the game, the buildings are going to be worth a certain number of points. Now all the faction buildings, you can see there's 2 stars there. That shows all of the faction buildings are going to be worth 2 points, and then all of the common buildings that you build are going to be worth 1 point as well. Add up any points from those, any end of game types of scoring cards, you might give you points as well, and then whoever has the most points is the winner. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. Now let me lead you down towards my opinion here, and I'll start with player counts. And I will kind of go on this roundabout trip because so many people I played it with have not cared for it as much as I do, for sure. So I just want to kind of walk you through that. So player counts, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I played it 1 player. It actually works pretty well. And it's kind of grown on me. I think I mentioned that in the walkthrough part of it. Now 2, 3, and 4, I think I like it with at least 3 and 4. The 2 player is nice, but there's a little bit kind of like, if you get a little bit of a leg up on me with a 2 player, you can kind of keep me down and keep your foot on my neck. So there's that part of it, and I could also just not be very good at the game because that's happened to me, not the other way around. So, but I think it's, I discussed that with the other player, and they're like, yeah, I kind of got a leg up on you. But when you have 3 and 4 players, it's a little bit more dynamic in that way, because somebody can step out to a lead and then we can kind of tap them back down. Now all of that is because we play with the attacking. Now I've tried playing it with the rules that you can't attack other players, and I don't really like that because you can't kind of bring the leader back and down. So it is a card game, so there's going to be a little bit of luck of the draw, but if you don't have the attacking, then whoever kind of draws into their strongest combo out of their own faction deck is going to be able to run away with it without anybody there keeping in check. And so some people I've played it with don't like the attacking because on the surface it looks like, oh, this is a Euro card game, so there won't be any attacking, and the attacking will be sort of passive aggressive and as opposed to directly aggressive. So they don't like the attacking, so we played it without the attacking. I'm like, I don't like it. No, you like it. So I think but it can fit your group, based on how you want to do it. If you want to play with the attacking and stuff, go for it. If you want to play without the attacking, then go for that as well. But I feel like the attacking to me is necessary, because then you can have some say, and it's not solitaire in that case. Because a lot of these style card games, like your Race for the Galaxy and your San Juan, that kind of stuff, that's a lot of multiplayer solitaire that's happening with those games. That is definitely not the case with this when you play with just the base rules. So there's that. And the other thing that I like about the attacking is it's very, I don't know, thematic. It makes sense because it is a civilization game in a lot of ways, because you know, you have this dynamics of building up your empire. So you start out playing those common cards, then after a bit, you start converting those, so to speak, into your main faction. So everybody kind of starts off, you know, like you think of Civ 5 or even like your Civilization board games, you start off, you're just like a little settler, kind of no name. And then after a bit, you move along and you've developed your culture, and now you have a little bit of an identity and all that kind of stuff. So I like that aspect of it. And because of that, because the Civ stuff all comes through, that's when I'm like, well, we have to have attacking because it's a Civ game. So take that with what you will. So I think this game can work for both groups though. And I may be overstating the fact that, hey, you know, if you take out the attacking, someone can have a runaway leader. Because I played this quite a bit actually. Probably 8 or 9 times now, which is usually more than I play a game before I review it. A little inside baseball there, because I was kind of, you know, it's one of those where you kind of just review things when you feel comfortable. You don't really count the number of plays. It's like, okay, I feel comfortable, let me review this. And every time I play this, I'd be like, I kind of know what I want to say, but there's another thing I want to check out. So anyway, back to my original point is I kind of feel like maybe the skill level hasn't always been even with all the number of players as I play with new players and people who've played it before. So maybe the whole thing about, hey, if you take out the attacking, you have a runaway leader, maybe that's not true. And I fully admit that. But in my experience, I would like that attacking to be in there, to, you know, make sure we can tamp down a player that doesn't just, you know, run away with their little cool Egyptian combo and hose everybody else. But again, I also like the attacking for the theme and everything. So I like the mechanics. The last thing, I kind of hung up on the attacking a little bit there, but the last thing I want to talk about, and this is a very pleasurable part of the game, is very AP inducing. Now, it may not seem that way because you can play it very fast and loose, but there's a lot of times that I see in this game where I look at my hand of cards and I'm like, oh, I could do this. And then I look at it for a second, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I did this, and then I did this and this, instead of doing it the other way around, I'd have way more resources at the end of the turn to spend on these cool cards, you know, and then you kind of back it up a little bit. So you can get wrapped up in that. And I don't think that's a problem, obviously, but that's a really cool part of that game because the cards do so many different things. You can make deals out of them, you know, you can raise them, you know, you can activate them in certain orders, you know, you can trade in, you know, certain goods and you know, use your base action for, you know, getting the goods. So the way that you can do the orders, you can better, you know, optimize and conserve and, you know, all your resources and all the people you have. And so I find a lot of times still when I play where I'm looking at my cards and I'm like, oh, you dummy, you didn't see that before, let's try this. So this is one of those games where it's like, oh, we just keep peeling back the layers there and figuring out, okay, now, you know, now I'm in a bad situation, I got to get cards, or, oh, no, I'm actually not in that bad of a situation. So there's a lot of that's going to happen. I think that's going to be very pleasing to folks. So I just wanted to leave you with that last little bit. So from not necessarily just a pure thematic civilization aspect, that game really excels there, but just from kind of the pure card play, you know, figuring out the best use of my cards is also going to work there. So anyway, Imperial Settlers, and I know he's got expansions coming for this, and I'm very excited for that because that to me is going to add, you know, be able to inject a lot of the richness of it. It's almost going to play out like an LCG from what I'm reading in the rules, which is really cool because you can kind of build your own faction decks as you get more cards. Like for the Japanese, you can kind of tailor. So then you can really customize your strategy and maybe optimize it better for your style of play. And also, you know, if you want to take the attacking out, I keep going back to the attacking, stop it. But, you know, if you want to leave it out or keep it in, you can customize the decks to support that as well, possibly. So anyway, so definitely a game to watch out for, and I can't wait for expansions. Hopefully they support this as much as they do Neuroshima Hex, which they have like, I don't know, 40 armies for, not 40. But anyway, so Imperial Settlers, thanks.